Well, hey there, everybody. It's your boy, Mr. Perry, and the time has arrived. It's time to start talking about nested for loops. Well, it's Unit 4, Lesson 4. Let's get started. All right, so what even is a nested loop? Hopefully you remember this from AP CSP. If not, we'll go ahead and do a quick review. A nested loop is when a loop appears inside of another loop. And what's important to remember is that the inner loop is going to iterate completely each time the outer loop iterates a single time. So in this particular loop, every single time this for loop iterates, this for loop is going to iterate, its entire process. And then it would go back into this outer for loop. And then on the next iteration of that outer for loop, our inner one is going to iterate all of the times. So we'll look at a quick example of this one, or of this one and how this one's going to do what it's going to do. So the first for loop is controlled by the variable I, and everything between its curly braces is going to iterate 4 times, right? Because int I equals 0, as long as I is less than 4, I plus plus. So this one's clearly going to iterate 4 times. Now our inner for loop, what we want to do is we want to change the loop control variable. We don't want to call this one I as well. We want to give it a different name. So for int j equals 0, as long as j is less than 6, j plus plus. The second for loop is controlled by the variable j, and again, everything between these two curly braces will iterate 6 times. So what's going to happen here is we're going to go ahead and recreate the Baby Shark song here using this for loop, right? These nested for loops, I should say. And so let's go ahead and check this out. When I is equal to 0, we're going to print Baby Shark, and then we're going to get into our inner for loop, which needs to iterate 6 times. So when j equals 0, we print do. And then when it's 1, we print do. And then when it's 2, we print do. 3, 4, 5. And then there you go. So every time our outer loop 1 prints Baby Shark, our inner loop is going to print do 6 times. So we've got Baby Shark, do, 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 do. And then we go back to our outer loop again. Baby Shark is, when I goes up to 1, we go back, back to here. And then we hit our inner loop, and j resets to be 0. So again, we do, once again, do, 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 do. And of course, this would just continue. This would happen 4 times, and then this would happen 6 times. Every single time the outer loop iterates. So again, it's important to, when you are doing nested for loops, to choose different variable names for your outer and your inner loops. The outer loop is controlled by I, the inner loop is controlled by j, and that's basically it. Now another type of question that you'll get in this class and on your AP exam is printing patterns using some of the different characters on the on our keyboard here. So in this case, you can see we are printing the asterisk. And we've got, a couple of interesting things going on here. So first off, our outer loop is this one right here. For int row equals 1, as long as row is less than or equal to 3, row plus plus. So this one's going to start at 1, and then it's going to go up to 2, and then it's going to go up to 3, and then this one's going to be done. So this outer for loop we know is going to print 3 times. Now the inner for loop, the way they've got this one set up is it says for int col equals 1, as long as col is less than or equal to 5, col plus plus. And you'll see why we're using row and col in just a second here. But again, our inner for loop is going to go starting at 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5. So this one's also going to iterate 5 times. If you started at 1 and then say as long as it's less than or equal to 5, then this one's going to loop 5 times. So every time our outer loop iterates, our inner loop is going to iterate 5 times. But then look at what happens. Once we're done with that, once we've iterated all of these times, we have a print statement down here. And notice that this is just a standard print statement, but this is a print ln statement. And this is going to give us a blank line. This is going to send us to the next line, since these are just print statements. So if we're trying to visualize, what's going on here, let's go ahead and start tracing this through. When the row is set to 1, we now go into our inner loop. So our column is now set to 1. And now we have to print an asterisk, but we need to also, stay within our loop here. We have to actually print this 5 times. So column goes all the way up to 5. And now we encounter our system.out.println statement, which takes us down to the next line of our console. And so now we go back to the top of our outer loop, and row now goes up to 2. And now we encounter our inner loop, so column is reset to 1. And now we're starting to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once we get to 5, this inner loop is done, and we go to our println statement. So now we're down here, and now row goes up to 3. And now we have to reset our inner loop, so the column goes back to 1. And then we're going to go ahead and print 5 more asterisks, and then that's basically it. So what we ended up printing was a grid, right? We printed a grid pattern of asterisks that has 3 rows, and we could think of this as 5 columns. So, there is that. That's how you would look at a nested for loop example like this and try to trace out what it's actually going to print. Now, in CSAwesome, we're going to be returning to the turtle class, and you'll get a chance to draw snowflakes with turtle objects. And again, in order to do it, you'll be using some nested loops like what you see right here. So we've created our world for our turtle. We've instantiated our turtle object. And then I went ahead and set the speed to 5 and set the color to blue. But now it says for int I is equal to 1 as long as I is less than or equal to 12. So this outer for loop is going to loop 12 times. And then the inner for loop is going to go ahead and print a square. It says for int size equals 1 as long as size is less than or equal to 4, size plus plus. It's going to move the turtle forward and then turn them 90 degrees. So, for all of the 4 sides, because this inner one's going to loop, 4 times, it'll turn forward and it'll move forward and it'll turn 90. But then once this inner loop is done, it says util.turn 30. So this is going to kind of turn the turtle just a little bit, and then you go back up into your outer for loop. And you can see this is going to happen 12 times. It's going to go ahead and draw, these squares, and again, they'll start to loop over one another, and it starts to look like a little bit of a snowflake. All right, so quick lesson review. Nested iteration statements are iteration statements that appear in the body of another iteration statement. And when a loop is nested inside of another loop, the inner loop must complete all of its iterations before the outer loop can continue. Once again, familiarity and practice are key with becoming comfortable with working with nested for loops. So as many of the bonus activities as you can get done on this one, the better, because again, practice is going to be key here. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you in class. Don't forget to leave a question or a comment on today's video.